I will read this email into the record. Trustee Bone, thank you for acknowledging how difficult it is to work with you. Your practice of never working for consensus is frustrating for those of us who are trying to adhere to our oath and work to improve the district and public education. Your habit of making ambush and illegal motions is not consensus building. Since your initial actions are in violation of policy and procedures, then by definition, all responses you receive will automatically fall outside policy and procedure. Please know that I always try to give you the grace that I would give anyone with such profound mental illness. But the narcissistic and antisocial personality disorder that you display on the dais is truly the worst thing I have had to deal with in 55 years on this planet. I try to ignore your bad behavior and not to react, and to not take the bait you love to set, as I know this is part of your illness, and I always strive to be a good person. You have talked of your childhood traumas on the dais, and it seems clear that your trauma has created your lack of empathy, your grandiose sense of self, and an inability to know what is actually the truth, and your need for special treatment. When I read the falsehoods in your very first paragraph and the exaggerations and manipulative statements throughout the email, I understand you cannot help it. Therefore, I will not respond to those things that come from your disorder, fictional narrative. I have also noticed recently that your inability to understand simple answers from staff during meetings and your inability to even realize how far from reality your statements are have both increased. For example, your erroneous statements about quantitative data and your inability to understand that minutes in a day is not the same as the number of days in the calendar, despite being given the answer in writing prior to the meeting and being told the same thing 5 times during Thursday's meeting, were concerning. You may need to check with your healthcare professional to discuss these issues. I know from our earliest conversations when you were first elected to the board and you were trying to recruit me as an ally that being a master manipulator is something you are very proud of, and that you have an intense need to feel like you are the smartest person in the room. I understand that both of these things are part of your mental illness and trauma response, and while I am frustrated by your continued disruptions and bad behavior, I would like to help you out so you don't continue to embarrass yourself and waste the board's and the public's time with ignorant statements about the law or legal definitions made by you both in your email and on the dais. Definition from Black's Law Dictionary: hearsay, a term applied to that species of testimony given by a witness who relates not what he knows personally, but what others have told him or what he has heard said by others. Hopefully you will be able to reread your email and be able to identify all the statements that would fall under this definition if you were a witness giving testimony. I will not be responding to any of them. I will say that you need to stop fishing for information on my family. Being on the school board should not be personal or involve personal attacks. We both swore to do what is best for the district as a whole. I understand that personal attacks are all you have given all your failures on this board. I also understand, like so many things, you may not be able to control yourself given the severity of your disorders. As stated above, one of the symptoms of narcissism is a grandiose sense of self. Therefore, it's not surprising that you feel like you can read a statute and probably truly believe that your interpretation is the correct and legal one. Sadly, this is far from the truth. You should hire sound legal counsel to advise you on the legislative intent and case law of official oppression and coercion of a public servant to prevent further embarrassment for yourself. I could have stayed on Thursday to formally recuse myself from the vote, but I had already told President Landrum I could not stay late due to a scheduled appointment at 8 a.m. on Friday morning. Any trustee can leave at any time, as you yourself have demonstrated time and again. That you took my leaving and that you took my statement of watching the end of the meeting later as anything other than the obvious reasons again shows a concerning pattern of misrepresenting facts to fit within your antisocial personality disorder framework. I will do my best to remember you are ill and strive not to get frustrated by your irrational and disruptive behavior while we are on the dais. And most importantly, I will pray that you get the professional medical help that you need. Mental health is as important as physical health. That concludes the email, and thus concludes my motion. So I hear, even before I got elected, when I would attend these school board meetings, and now that I've been on the dais for almost 3 years, I hear a lot of rhetoric from board members about feeling safe and about how important that is and how they really have a passion for it. And yet I see abusive language being directed from one trustee to another, which has prompted me to offer this motion. And it is very clear that we've got multiple policy violations, and this is a real test for the members here who have chosen on multiple occasions to exercise sanctions against some trustees when we've got such blatant violations here. I think most reasonable people, I would never expect any of our students, any of our teachers, any of our staff to be subjected to what Dr. Mary Bone has been subjected to. We have to be able to live with disagreeing with each other and having things, motions made and decisions made that we don't like, but we have to be able to coexist. And again, I get lectured on, people are watching, and the treatment that was directed at Dr. Mary Bone, not only is it multiple policy violations and a code of conduct violation, it's unbecoming, it sets a terrible example for our children, and it'll be interesting to see where the votes fall on this, given this body's history on sanctioning trustees.